would now like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Ajit Panikar, CEO of Nova HVAC Systems India Private Limited, founder Pure Blue Technologies, and former President Tata India, to shed light on the evolving need for the skill development for sustainable cooling solutions, encompassing both technological and educational dimensions. The presentation shares insights into the intricacies of equipping service technicians with the skills necessary for cutting edge cooling systems and propose strategies to foster capacities and skills along with the creating opportunities in the sector. Ajit.
Okay, thank you, River. First of all, I want to thank Supriya for actually putting this coalition together and inviting us out here. Uh, so it's been a lot of discussions in the first half, but one of the most important things that we also realize is uh, it's great to have great ideas, but if you can't actually act on these ideas and execution, what we call in enterprise building is, if you can't put it into an execution format and you can't come make that into a reality, there's no point in brainstorming this. And that's where we come in. And just to give you a little insight, I represent Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Trade Association. We reach out to about 7,000 MSMEs in this industry, primarily two different kinds of people. One are the component manufacturers, and the other are the last mile, what you call as the customer interface, as far as the HVAC installation, services, maintenance, all kinds of people, both in refrigeration and ventilation. I want to bring together today all about skilling. What are the challenges, what is happening, and what is a big impact, and what is it, the opportunity that exists out here. What's the problem that we are talking about? We have an immediate requirement for about 2 lakh technicians in the field of air conditioning installation and maintenance. What a strange irony, right? A country with the youngest population needing desperate jobs, and there is a vacancy for 2 lakh technicians in the private sector in a growth industry, and we don't have people. That's the reality. So a huge opportunity because this industry is growing and we don't have trained people out here. This workforce gap can hinder the growth of the industry, which is slated to grow 8 times in the next 2 decades. And this lack of trained workforce can impact sustainability in terms of energy efficiency and the impact on global warming. There are enough papers written and documents out there which says 80% of the inefficiency in air conditioning lies in the installation and maintenance of the systems and in the refrigerant management. So how did we get here? That's the most important thing, is how did we get here? There are different stakeholders who have all contributed to the problem. And I'm going to highlight each of them as to how some intelligent people can come together and build a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what I'm going to tell you about. So let's take the government. What has the government done? We are slated to grow 8 times, but there's no focus on building skilling for this industry. We are not even a subsector in the skilling ministry. There's no existence of that. How come we missed? We identified the huge growth opportunity but never realized that this industry can provide so much of jobs. So there's no subsector focused on skilling. There is no certification of technicians. Anyone can claim to be an AC technician having learned on the job, leading to issues of quality and safety. For most of you who don't know, almost 50%, nearly 40 to 50% of the workforce that we have learned on the job. What is the meaning of on the job? Have learned to be an air conditioning technician on the customer's machine, right? So energy efficiency, sustainability is very far away from the real world. And certification, anybody can come in and say, I'm an AC technician. There is no certification in this industry. Let's take the training institutes. Most of the ITIs, polytechnics, have outdated syllabus. diploma holders who come out from there are not accepted by the industry because they're not taught what the industry actually needs. It's completely disconnected. The course material and equipment taught to these students are completely outdated, and everyone who ends up coming has to be reskilled, completely retaught on what is being required. So there is no employability even. That is creating a bottleneck where many people do not even want to get into the industry because after finishing that course, he doesn't get a job. The trade bodies. Trade bodies like us, there are many trade bodies who are actively looking at it, and everyone seems to understand the gravity of the situation. Everyone wants to be part of the solution, nobody wants to take the lead. Everyone is looking at it by saying that how does as a trade body do we benefit out of it? Rather than how does a trade benefit? Everyone seems to be working in silos, completely disconnected, and that's where this problem has been contributed, even from trade bodies who understand that this is going to impact their business. The gig economy, which is over the last few years, the Ubers and the Swiggies have bought in workforce. That's where, because there's not much skill required. You can get into this industry pretty fast, they pay well. So that's also attracting a lot of people. They get paid well, but here's another problem. The technological advancements that are happening in these two industries is only creating a bigger problem. And let me explain to you how this happens. Let's take an Uber. You get a driver, he drives the cars, he gets paid for it. EVs are already in place, driverless cars are already in place. Once that gets active, what happens to all these guys? Swiggies, these guys are just delivery boys. Once the drones come into play, what happens to all these guys? They're not even skilled. How many of us will hire them? What job will you give them? Some of us tell me, when I talk to my colleagues in the industry, they say, you're very far-fetched here. These things are not going to be a reality. What are you talking about drones and driverless cars and all that stuff? Yeah, 5 years ago, when satellite navigation came in, we all laughed, saying that we have roads which changes names and directions. It's never going to be applicable in India, and today all of us live over Google Maps. So that changes reality. This employment that's come in is just delayed the process. This is an unskilled, it's great, it exists, but it's a ticking bomb. And most of the guys who are there are easily getting into this whole thing. The MSMEs have never considered training as part of their manpower development or as part of their business. They've never done investments, nor do they have the bottom lines or the profitability or the skill set to do it. I'm talking about the majority of them. There might be a handful of them who might be doing it, but majority of them do not have the skill set or the money to build it. And the worst thing what these guys have actually done is have not given due respect and remuneration to the technicians. Today, that entire job profile is considered as a low-grade job profile. End of refrigerant, end of equipment, refrigerant management, leaks. These are the key stakeholders. These are the people who are going to deliver it for you. How do we actually achieve all these things? Because these are the guys who are actually going to make sure these machines are well maintained, energy efficiencies are taken care of, refrigerants don't leak. They don't have a say in this. While we're building big plants, these guys don't exist in those plants. The OEMs. OEMs, I'm talking about the large equipment manufacturers. They're so focused on profitability and market share, they've forgotten that we need to also set up an ecosystem for this growth. Forget about setting up an ecosystem. I'll tell you how they screwed it up big time. Mindless marketing. Let's give free installation with air conditioners. What have you told the customer? That this is a plug and play. Installation should not cost you money. Sell the equipment. Look at all the developed countries and you'll be surprised how much of importance is given to the installation. We sit here and we talk about installation, quality of installation, trained manpower. These large manufacturers themselves have mindlessly communicated to the consumers that installation is not important. Seriously, for a product that's about 35,000, 40,000 rupees and a market that is growing 8 times, where there's a share for everybody, was this necessary? Free installation, does it make that impact? Has it created an impact for them, or has it created more damage? When it comes to services, they have service partners, never remunerated for services to be done. And we talk energy efficiency can be improved if just the air conditioning systems are well maintained. Most service partners are not interested in services because there is no remuneration around it. It's just not profitable. We did a study at the trade organization and we realized the services margins, which are remuneration that is given to these service partners, is exactly the same what it was 20 years ago. There is not a rupee difference. Everyone has just exited that business. And then we say that it has to be maintained. And of course it has to be maintained. So what's the impact? The impact is there's impediment to growth. It could be a missed opportunity to create jobs, that to skill jobs that have a career path. See, it's a beautiful industry. This is one of those industries which has not been disrupted, or we don't even see technology that is disrupting it. The refrigerant cycle for the last 100 years has been the same, and there is no new technology that is also coming in to disrupt this industry. This is one of those industries which can actually give jobs to completely unskilled, semi-skilled engineers and can build a career path. It's a growing industry. And this is a country that is energy starved. We need to be having that conversation here. And this is a country that needs jobs. How could we get this so wrong? Environmental impact. Unskilled manpower can cause challenges in refrigerant leaks or the challenge in refrigerant recovery at the end of the life, or the end of life of the equipment. I mean, we can keep saying we need these equipments at the end to get the refrigerants back, but there are no skilled staff available for that. And neither are they motivated or incentivized. You can't put a soldier in front of the war path when his family is not taken care of. He's not well remunerated, he's not well taken care of, he's not skilled enough to handle it, and then we say that, listen, you should be worried about the environment and you're the most important man to make it happen. We're going down the wrong path. We need to have this fixed. Poorly managed systems can have poor energy efficiency in an already energy-starved environment like ours. And that's the reality. Inefficiency is what we get. We have seen energy efficiencies, machines which can operate at an energy efficiency, and the current situation is almost 4 to 5 times of inefficiencies in systems, both in residential and commercial applications, because it's just not maintained very well. So at the association, we said someone's going to do this. So we started doing a pilot program. So the pilot program is, we said, okay, there are enough people who can create knowledge partnerships. We tied up with a few ITIs, and then this Fund First is a company which is under the EESL, the Skill Ministry. They do manpower sourcing. So the knowledge partnership plus manpower sourcing put together, we came up with an industry internship. So we have about 5 or 10 companies who are now part of the training program. That is, even if you're in an ITI, we will partner with you. We will give you a real life industry experience. We will change the knowledge course as to what the industry wants. And we are assuring 100% placements. This program is still on. It's a pilot program. We've had a lot of learnings. Why was it a pilot program? Because we really don't know what's a solution that can be built to scale. You can build a solution, but if you can't replicate it and build it to scale, it's no point. So we said, let's run a pilot program and do some studies. To sum up, what is the outcome? Almost 80 to 90% of what we've done, we failed. All right? But that's come up with a lot of learnings. And one of the things that we really think what can make a big difference, which is scalable, is to approach this whole thing a little differently. What we are saying is follow a 3-point strategy on this. Now we are also going to pilot this out. Go online. Now I'll explain to you why I actually put that YouTube logo out there. When we first started talking online, the entire industry and everybody who's a stakeholder keeps telling me, this is an air conditioner. You need tools. Are you going to teach that guy online how to do it? How is that even practically possible? It's not practically possible. So we are again stuck with our mindsets. These were the way you trained people over the last 30 years and you still have this problem. In fact, this problem is much bigger than what it was. Why is it that we are failing as an industry to try out something different? Every parent has a ready template to tell his child how his life will be destroyed if he sits on the social media channels. None of the kids' lives have been destroyed, but our template continues. Why can't we harness the potential of this? So what we are saying is the requirement is an installation. Can we have free online videos, and most of these youngsters are there, on how to just install air conditioners? That's it. And very basic stuff on air conditioners, freely available. Can we have industry partners who can give them opportunity to come and practice and to certify? The government should insist on certification. Now, the government cannot insist today on certification for existing guys because the entire industry will stand up against it. Because nearly 50% have not come through a formal education. And we do not have a database of these technicians. So let's think out of the box on this. Build online videos which is free, accessible, everybody can access. Be on that channel where already most of these youngsters and kids are there. Get the industry partners to help them come and practice. Industry partners are incentivized in a way, and they become certifying agencies by the government. Under the government, they become certifying agencies. This is a very basic level course. What happens in this? One, he gets immediate employment as a micro entrepreneur, which is addressing the problem of installation. Now, if you want to understand the problem of installation, how big it is, Delhi is the best place. Because in Delhi during summer, if you buy an air conditioner, you pay for it, you'll get your air conditioner the next day. Do you know how many days on an average it took last summer for that air conditioner to get installed? This is OEMs. It took them about 10 to 15 days for a guy to show up and install an air conditioner. That was the problem. They did not have skilled people to actually do it. So it's an opportunity which the industry can accept, and you will also get these guys to come on board, and you can do it. But what you have also gained is you've started building a database of all these technicians who are coming on board, who really want to be part of the industry. That's where you first capture that data. Now the point is, can you reskill them? How do you keep a tab of them? Well, that's possible. It's not as difficult as an electrical technician or an electrical repairman. This is a trade license that you give him. All OEMs should be just told, if you want to activate your warranty, your trade license should be attached to it. Without the trade license, you will not be able to get the warranty. With very little inputs, you can actually make sure that regulation has taken place. And you can enforce trade license. So now trade license gets importance. That's also giving recognition and redefining how that technician and who he is. This is also a way to make an entry into certifications which is mandatory and also create an opportunity on micro entrepreneurship. Now that if you've got all these data of all these technicians, who they are, now you have a targeted group of people to upskill. And upskilling can be done by already existing infrastructure. It could be industry partners, it could be these ITIs, but you know where to go them. And what do you upskill them for? Upskill them only for the industry requirement. For example, can I train the guys from your basic only for commercial air conditioning? Or maybe only the VRF systems, or only for the chillers, or only for refrigeration? Can we be very focused and bring out guys only this so there is a balance and the entire industry benefits? Because all the industry, right? You have the cold chain, you have the refrigeration, you have the transport industry, you have the space cooling. These are the 4 big contributors into the 8 times growth that we are expecting. So can we actually channelize into all these 4 differently with level 1s, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5s? Can there be recertifications? That is the way forward to actually capture these guys. And once you know these people, you can implement so many things. Now, in this situation, think about the end of life equipment. How can you implement that? Think about a natural refrigerant coming into space. How can you bring that? What is the impact on sustainability if something like this happens? So, upskilling, data collection, upskilling. The third most important, under the new national education policy, you can have an industry partnership and come with a bachelor's degree. Why can't we have a bachelor's degree for air conditioning and refrigeration? What will it do? It's a 3-year course, it's an industry partnership. Why don't we as an industry and as the government push it really hard? It's going to change that image of that technician. He is going to be able to force the industry to pay a better remuneration. And that is extremely important. It has to be a carrot and stick method, but you have to create enough pressures within the ecosystem to force people to act. You can't just keep educating the customer and tell him instantly, he's always going to look for the best deal. But how do you actually create within that ecosystem that pressure to make sure everyone comes out the best and everyone benefits? And this technician, visualize from somebody who's just a 10th standard pass or a 12th standard pass, gets into a job with just basic skills, understands the industry, he's reached upon and counseled to choose different levels. He goes there, he might become a micro entrepreneur or he might work with a company. Who knows, some of the best guys might take up senior positions. Who knows, some of the best guys might work in a different part of this world. Why just solve India's problem? This is a problem which is there across. And look at the amount of jobs that you can create. Manufacturing is going to come, but advanced manufacturing is not going to create so much of jobs. HVAC industry offers services-based jobs. And these are real jobs that exist and will continue to exist. So, to all the stakeholders here, I want you to take this message across. You know, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. I mean, what it actually is trying to say is that the potential lies in the gap between our actions and our capabilities. It suggests that if we were to fully apply ourselves, leverage our collective capabilities of working together, we can probably overcome many challenges. The underlying message is, let's stop working in silos. Can we all just come together, get to the larger picture? And it's no rocket science. It's just about how do we fix a problem? My motivation is very simple. I belong to that generation which senses an opportunity to make an impact. Imagine going to your grave 20 years from now saying that you did nothing about this year. You didn't even make an effort. This is a huge opportunity. I didn't say it. It was said by Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot.
We can now take questions.
Thank you very much. That was very well presented set of slides as well as concepts. We are in the same page in a sense. 90% of all that you said is something that we are grappling with. Now, we can go on and on talking about to figure out as to what the solutions are. But you spoke about RATA. Now, how have you tried to address the problem within RATA itself? And what has that experience been? And what is the general or generic lessons we can draw from that? Because the problem is well known and the solution is also well known, but it's so difficult to get it done. Right? What can we learn from your experience within RATA to actually get this done? You've got a pilot program. I'm quite sure you'd have had resistance to the pilot program within RATA. How did you circumvent it? And what are the more generic lessons that you can share with us?
Sure. So first is there is a shift of mindset within the MSMEs. You know, the way they think. So we believe at the association it's going to be peer pressure. You know, so within RATA we've started building this peer pressure. Every time we meet, we start talking about it. Why you don't have a provident fund? Why don't you have an ESIC? Why don't you have a minimum wages? Now we are slowly saying that, you know, listen, we're going to look down upon you if you don't follow these simple compliances. So that is the peer pressure that is being created to bring that shift. Second is, how do we glamorize this job profile? That is one of the biggest, most important things. We need to glamorize this. So at the association level, we are saying that can some of us who are business owners get to these institutes and talk about it? Tell them what is the opportunity that is available, how this industry is doing good. Like for example, there was a time when they say, Uber में काम करेगा, 40 के बाद क्या करेगा तू? वही गाड़ी चलाएगा? We said, no, don't approach it that way. That's wrong. That guy is joined there because most of these people who come from these profiles, they don't have 2 years, 3 years to give you. They need a job quickly. That gig economy gives them that job. Now, how are we mitigating that problem? We said that, listen, go and work with an Uber, go and work with a Swiggy. But please remember, in another 20 years, you will not be able to continue that job and nobody will hire you. So here is what you should do. You should undertake a course program with us and continue to work with them. And skill yourself. So 5 years down the line, you will be a skilled person and you'll be able to come in. So that mind shift within the MSME, how to communicate these things, is some things that we have started doing at the association level. Have we moved the needle big time? No, but we're not giving it up. We will make that impact somewhere. One of the biggest realizations that we have is you can't make a big impact if you work in silos. So we are out saying that, listen, it's an industry problem. We've all contributed to this pain point, and I think we all will pay a price for this. So why don't we get together and fix a problem? And that's what our goal is at the association, while we'll continue to do what we are doing, but we also want to take this message across and say that, let's fix it together. Yep.
Yeah, Ajit, brilliant presentation. I have a few thoughts. So when we are working on the technology roadmap, we have also understand that technology is a limitation, right? Corresponding to the cost. And operation is where a lot of amount of work has to be done. But I was reading the press release from the MOFCC, which says upskilling and certification of about 43,450 RAC service technician has been undertaken, and this is the press release from in 2022, under the National Skill Qualification Framework of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, so under MSD. So would like to know whether, because another 2 year passed down, and we have a target of 2 lakh, is this not working, or how things are in that, and how we are
under
actually...
the PKM, sorry. Yeah. Under the PKMY program, what is the PKMY program? Saying that, say for example, at RATA we work with ICICI Foundation. I don't want to give a real-time experience how we are actually working. They're under the PKMY, they train guys. So ICICI Foundation has got a CSR money where they train, and one of the courses they train is for technicians. What is the program? You pick up people from the underprivileged, get them on, teach them for 3 months. So after 3 months, they come to the industry. Now when they come to the industry, in 3 months, you don't want to send the guy alone to open up an air conditioner. It's a safety hazard. He knows basic stuff, but he hasn't learned on the job. So he goes as what? As a helper. All right? Now when he goes as a helper, He learns basic stuff, and after that, there is zero upskilling. So there is no mechanism saying that, okay, you do 3 months, you come into the industry, but then we are going to come back to you and we're going to upskill you now that you've figured out there's an opportunity here. How do we upskill you? The problem comes again in certification. The base level certification should be focused on installation, because that's where the pain point is. So can you come up with a 3 months course and you can say that these guys can understand basics and can install an air conditioner? You can convert him, he'll immediately get a job, and he can also become a micro entrepreneur. And give him a certification saying that you are a certified installer by the government of India. Over a period of time, you build a database, right? Then the program should be, how do I reach to that database and I upskill them? We do not have that approach. Nor the industry, nor anybody else. We want to do a quick fix and churn out people and assume that they're there. Look at the amount of retention that you had. You will be surprised. ICICI has been telling us that nearly 60 to 70% of the people whom we churn out eventually leave the industry. So that is the pain point. I mean, you can do that for a accountant. You can do that for a tally training program. You can do all that. But when it comes to technical, in 3 months, how much can he pick up? You can just give him an insight. But that upskilling plan, if it is not there, and a roadmap to a career path is not there, and he needs to realize that for the next 20 years, he can change his life. And he's empowered to do it. And this is the way to do it. That has not been thought through. And that is why it's failing. That's what we've also experienced. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ajit, for putting forward the wonderful thoughts. So I have two quick questions. So one is, like we already have a system in place from the Ministry of Skill Development under Electronic Sector Skill Council, and there is a basic level of training and some certification. So the framework which you propose, so are you proposing to basically integrate it in the existing system? Because the basic training is there. What I understand is that need for creating a database out of that and then continuous upskilling so that they can also see a career progression path for themselves, which can motivate them to remain in the sector. So are you proposing that the framework which you have proposed should be integrated with that, or it should be an independent framework run by the industry bodies? The second question linked to that is that one of the key challenges in basically high churn rate or not being able to retain those trained technicians is the seasonality of the job, because it requires for 5-6 months very basically very tight schedule during 5-6 months, and then a very lean period in the remaining 6 months. So so basically, how to address this challenge to basically keep them remain in the sector, or providing some alternate opportunities so that they again the next year they again come back in this job. Thank you.
Sure. So first, to address the thing about which training program. So the PKMY is not working. It's not suitable for us. There is only one program, which is the dual scheme training for 2 years, which is an industry partnership. Somehow that's not being focused and that's a program that can really work and also retain people, which is 6 months study in an ITI, 6 months come with an industry partner who's recognized, go back, come back, take a 1-year apprentice, and you get your certification, take a 1-year apprentice also, and that's a 3 years, and the chances are the retention is very, very high on that front. I think under the ESL, under the sector skill, HVAC or cooling should come as a separate subsector. It cannot come under electronics. Because you build programs for the mobile phone repair and then you expect the HVAC guy to fit into it, it's a recipe for disaster, which is why those 3 months things are not working. You're doling out money, people are putting in their efforts, and 60%, 70% are just going out of the industry. So the answer is 2 things. One is the DST program will come in. Second is that bachelor's program, that also needs to be pushed in. Third is there has to be a different method for the sector skill. For the HVAC industry, for the cooling industry, there has to be a different approach where you can have something like a PKMY, but it has to be more changed for the industry. That's one. Second is seasonality of the business. The seasonality of the business is in a certain segment of the country. West and South doesn't have seasonality. We are a 9 month to 10 months business, almost 11 months. It is primarily in the northern part, which is where you need to have different levels. Refrigeration is not seasonality. Transport air conditioning is not seasonality. But can you build multi-skills? That's why I said it should be level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So now suddenly you tell him, भैया गर्मी के टाइम पे स्पेस कूलिंग करेगा तो बाकी के टाइम पे रेफ्रिजरेशन का मौका है. A refrigeration equipment in a hospitality industry continues to function 365 days. Why are we not correlating this? Why are we assuming that these two guys cannot be the same guy? You can do it. Yes, the requirement is not so high. But then if you actually do dual skilling in two different levels, you can solve to a certain extent. I'm not saying 100%, but you can mitigate that problem. But again, that is isolated to a certain northern part of the country. Across west, across south, you don't have that seasonality. It's almost 10 months business, almost 11 month business. That 2 months, I think most of them are fully employed guys. So that's the problem. That's the way we look at it. All right, great. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeet, for providing us with insights on the skilling needs in India, the challenges and barriers to skill development. We will now break for lunch. Please ensure to be back in the next 45 minutes. By 2:15, preferably. Thank you.